So the question is, can a mitzvah that has been lost for a long time period be rediscovered, and could we start doing a mitzvah again that we haven't been doing for years? So specifically, we have an example of the Techelles, that there's a mitzvah in the Torah of tzitzis, and the Torah says you need Selevan and Techelles on it. In fact, there's a discussion in the Gemara, in the Mishnah, on whether a Techelles ma'akeves it's a Selevan or not. That do you need Techelles in order to fulfill your mitzvah? So there's a minority view that says yes, that a Techelles ma'akeves it's a Selevan. In fact, they say the Baal HaMor Shita is that there's no mitzvah of tzitzis. If we don't have Techelles, then you can't do the mitzvah of tzitzis. I think that was Rabbi Shita, one Shita in the Gemara. That was the Baal HaMor Shita, that there was no mitzvah of tzitzis because we don't have Techelles. In fact, when the Ramban discusses it, he says he couldn't believe that the Baal HaMor didn't wear tzitzis his whole life, because there was no Techelles at that time. When Rav Soloveitchik says it over, he says what? The Baal HaMor wasn't buried in a talis? Either way, that's a separate discussion anyway. You make the talis pasul or not. But either way, there's a machokas in the Gemara. We paskin Techelles is not ma'akev. So even if you don't have Techelles, you can fulfill your mitzvah of tzitzis. Regarding Big Day Kahuna, it's not true. By Big Day Kahuna, you need the Techelles in order for it to be a kosher Big Day Kahuna. So the Radvina Rabbi, who was interested in Mehera Yibana Beis HaMikdash, he was interested in building the Beis HaMikdash, that the Beis HaMikdash should be rebuilt as soon as possible. Then what's going to happen? We're not going to, how are we going to know, like, we need the Big Day Kahuna? We're going to start looking with the Techelles then? Let's find the Techelles now, so we'll be ready. So when the Mashiach is here, the Beis HaMikdash is built, we could start doing the mitzvah right away. So he went ahead, and I guess he did a lot of research, and he claimed that he followed the Techelles. He claimed he found the Chilazon, the Techelles, and his Hasidim till this day still wear tzitzis with Techelles. So when he said he found the Techelles, so he sent it out. He even has the Sefer out now. It's a thing to put it in one volume, that he has all the tshuvas. He wrote to people what they think. So yesh v'yesh. So those who thought that no way, it's definitely not Techelles. Others, backed them up on it. So one of the letters is from the Beis Halevi, the great grandfather of Soloveitchik from Boston. And there are two versions of what the Beis Halevi said. The first way is that it's not from the Beis Halevi itself, but someone who was close to him spoke to the Ravina Rebbe, wrote to him, and said, if you could give me some historical reason why now we found the Techelles and no one knew, our grandparents didn't know, our great-grandparents, the Rishonim didn't know, tell me something. If you're telling me it's a fish everyone knew about, and all of a sudden now you woke up today and said, then forget about it, I don't want to hear it. Kind of like the issue of, there's a discussion at different times of Jewish history, should you bring a Karban Pesach or not? So obviously we don't. But the question is, that's nothing new, Karban Pesach. So why didn't the previous generation, why didn't the Chafetz Chaim, why did the Meshech Chacham, whoever, why didn't they say, we don't have any new information, so I don't know better than them, so why am I saying now we should? So that's one thing. So if you're telling me the Techelles, everyone knew about it, and you just discovered America, then I'm not pro. But if you could give me a reason why up until now no one knew about it, now why you found it, the way the version, I'd be the first one to wear it, is the way one version goes. That's how one version of the Beis Halevi goes. In other words, he nixed it, because if you would tell me that you'd find something that you have good reason, then why not? And the second one, the tradition Rav Soloveitchik has from Boston, the one he said over in YU, and I think that's also the Masorah they have in Brisk in Yerushalayim, is that no, the Beis Halevi said, even if you're right, you're wrong. It doesn't make a difference, even if you could give me all the scientific geographic reasons, archaeology, you could prove it all you want, and let's say we could believe 100%. This is the Techelles. You're still wrong. We still can't wear it because we're lacking a Mesorah. That you need a Mesorah because the Rav felt strongly about Mesorah in general. He said not just how do we know what Oreis or Dochen is? How do you know what rice is? You have to know what Chita is. There are halachic issues for it. So could I just go as Rav Shachta, like saying, well, speak to any Puerto Rican in Washington Heights. They'll tell you what Oreis is. They knows what right is. But the Rav felt on different Gemaras, no, you have to have a Mesorah. And different, we could get into the details in another shiur, but basically, perhaps it's the same or a similar issue by Turkey. That, in fact, Rav Schechter himself doesn't eat, I believe he doesn't eat turkey. So why doesn't he eat turkey? Because he claims you need a Mesorah. So what about people who do eat turkey? Either they claim that it's part of the chicken family, you don't need a Mesorah, or, whatever, that's a separate shiur also, why we eat turkey today. But in addition to knowing that it chews its cud and split hooves or fins its scales, whatever we're talking about, you have to have a tradition that this animal was kosher. So he says similar by the mitzvah of Techelles, that even if you're right, even if you could prove to me 100%, so my nafkamina, a major nafkamina, because up until now I think they thought it was a different fish everyone knew about, but then a whole discussion the Radvina Rebbe had with Rav Herzog, and they found a new snail actually, the Muritz trunculus, that they found some snail that they claimed that is it, and it fits in. It definitely fits in as a possibility. It's in the place where it's supposed to be, etc. The only reason why Rav Herzog rejected it, he said, or the only problem we have is, first Rav Herzog rejected the Radvina's. He said that was the wrong Techelles. The irony of the story is during the Holocaust, when they came in and they destroyed all the Radvina's stuff and they lost the Techelles, so Rav Herzog had in all his writings with the Radvina Rebbe, so they took from Rav Herzog's writings and they made the Techelles again. Rav Herzog felt that was the wrong one, but they felt it was the right one. So he said, I found this snail, I think it did, I only have one major issue. It comes out purple, the dye. And we have a tradition that the dye is blue and not purple. Until later on, I guess through scientific studies, they found that it is blue. If you do it inside, it comes out purple, but whatever the technical details are. If you do it outside, the sunlight makes it blue dye. So it is blue. So he says, I have a reason. No one else knew this. This is a new finding we have right now. No one, the Chafetz Chaim didn't know that. This is all new. So a major nafkamina, which is the true version of the Beis Halevi. According to the first version, the Beis Halevi would be the first one to wear it. And according to the second version, the Beis Halevi would be the last one to wear it. He never would wear it. So the Badei HaShulchan, Rafaivel Cohen, who has a famous book on Nida, the Badei HaShulchan, I think it's called, he used to do Shemesh. He was very close to Rabbi Yashav. I guess he went to Eretz Yisrael for a while, and now he's back in Brooklyn. But I guess he kept up the correspondence with Rabbi Yashav. They were very close. And I guess he wrote to, or he spoke to Rabbi Yashav and said, which version of the Beis Halevi do you think is correct? So he said, again, this is the Badei HaShulchan's version. He said, I think, to me, the first way of the Beis Halevi, the first understanding makes more sense. That if you could prove it, that this is it, why do you need a Mesorah? If we know that it's a Techelles, it's a Metzias issue, then we should be able to use it. But it's difficult to say that you need a Mesorah. I'm just thinking aloud, and what does it mean you need so let's say, is it something, so the question is, this a din in all mitzvahs? So let's say tefillin was lost for 1,000 years, and we found a pair of tefillin, so you wouldn't be able to wear tefillin. I'm just thinking aloud. I'm saying how it depends, which is a separate shiur. What does it mean you need a Mesorah? Like what exactly? I mean, I know what the words mean, but what is the real? What does it mean you need a Mesorah? And what is it? What's considered lost, and what's considered you need a Mesorah? So either way, so Rabbi Yashav thought, according to this verse, according to the Badei HaShulchan, that the first version's right. So then, of course, If that's the case, then should we wear it? Then he asked Rabbi Yosef. If you're telling me, if the second version's right, end the discussion. If the first version's right, then okay. He said, I don't know, let me think about it. I mean, that's the way. Obviously, the bottom line is, we know he didn't wear it, or at least as far as we know, no one knew. So the question, so people say yes. So the Rabbi Yosef says not to wear it. Obviously, whether he said he'll think about it or he wrote somewhere else to not to wear it. The bottom line is he didn't wear it, and it said in his name not to wear it. So that's the story I heard. Also, that's the way Rav Schechter, who wears Techelles, by the way, he heard the way he believes the story. He says the Techelles people went to Rabbi Yosef. They gave him the whole story. So the way their version is, Rabbi Yosef is buying in. Okay, it sounds like it definitely could be it. So let me ask you something. How much Techelles do you have? Do you have enough for 20,000 Charedim to put on Techelles tomorrow, or whatever the number was? They said, no, we don't have enough. We don't have that kind of supply. He said, supply and demand. You know what people are going to do? If I make an announcement tomorrow that everyone has to wear Techelles, the price is going to hit the roof. These people who don't give food on the table to their family, they're going to spend $1,000 on Techelles. So there's no way I could tell you. In fact, according to that version, he thought it was it, but for what we call meta halacha concerns, obviously the other school thought would say no. He said not to wear because he didn't think it was it. So I'm just saying, it's not a matter of proving one way, especially Rabbi Yosef is not alive anymore today. But even if he was, I mean, it's not a matter of going in, and I'm sure if someone could get in and ask him. But then the question is, then who do you trust? Or as good as the person who's, when someone says something in someone's name, it's only as good as the one who's quoting him. If the person who's quoting him has no credibility, if someone who I don't believe in quotes me, Rav Moshe said something, that doesn't mean anything. It's as far as the person quoting. Obviously, unless, of course, if I could document him, if he's quoting a Rav Moshe I could read, then obviously I don't need him. Then it's no loss. Then I'm okay with. If it's something else or it's proven, if no one, this is something with Piyah Shemua, so you're only as good as the person who you're quoting from. So that's the way. That's the way the different versions go. There was a major nafkamina because the question would be is whether you could wear the Techelles, whether this new Techelles that we could find, where you could find reasons that maybe this is it. So, and meaning, in other words, whether it's true and whether it's 100% sure, no one knows. But at least we have a reason now. They claim that other generations wouldn't know. Up until this point, we had it was purple, so we nixed it. But now that we find out it could give out blue dye, it's not just that. The proponents of it, they say it was in the right place. They found a lot of that dyes there, based on different, Others, I heard one person give a share on Techelles. He started off his share by discussing the different. He said, "I think there's a 0% chance that this Techelles is Techelles." So obviously, if you think it's a 0% chance, there's nothing to talk about. And if you say there's a 100% chance, which I don't think anyone says. I mean, they might say it, but I mean, no one demonstrated. Because if you believe it's a 100% chance, that means you'd wear wool and linen today in your tzitzis. And you have shatnez b'makom mitzvah. No one goes, even the proponents, no one goes ahead today and wears wool and linen. They don't believe it that much. I think they believe it's a good chance it's it. It's definitely a suffix. In other words, so obviously if you say there's 0% chance, so then there's nothing to talk about. So that's one way of nixing the shaila, saying, okay. And if you say it's a 100% chance, even that we said you could be 100% chance, but if you need a Masorah, you're out anyway. So you could, if it's a 0% chance, it's out. 100% chance isn't definitely in. But you could say all you want. Most likely, to me, it's definitely somewhere in between. You have to go through both. People have rayas in both directions. One of the rayas the anti-people have this person who said 0%. He gave a whole share on it. But one of his rayas was he said that it says atzad chilazon. If you trap a chilazon, you're chayav Seda on Shabbos. So the question is, if it's a snail, we know a snail moves very slowly. So how could you possibly? But the fact you're chayav Seda shows it's not a snail, and therefore you're wrong. But others say that's not a raya at all, because there's other Rishonim, many different Rishonim learned the Gemara over there, that if it could be a slow-moving object, but if it's good at camouflaging and hiding itself, and you're going to need some special tools to catch it, to even though it could blend in with the sand or however it is, that is considered Seder. So again, for every raya you're going to have a pro and con. It all depends on where you are on the scale, if you're a proponent of Techelles or not. We don't have an agenda here. We're going to give, we'll give the pros and cons of, we'll give each side. So if you hold, as I said, if you hold 0%, that's it. You have from 0 to 100%, and then you have Rav Soloveitchik. The question, so if you hold it 0%, or if you hold like Rav Soloveitchik, his version of it, you need a Masorah, then there's nothing to talk about. But if you assume not like Rav Soloveitchik, so if you don't assume like Rav Soloveitchik, but you assume the 0% chance, you still wouldn't wear them. But let's assume, for our purposes, but we'll continue on. But the question we'll have to deal with next time is, let's assume it's a suffix. I don't know. I can't say for certain it is or it isn't. We can get in what percentage is warranted or not. But let's assume you don't need a Masorah, and let's assume it's more than a 0, it's more than a 10% chance, or maybe it's a 50% chance. So then what? Should one wear Techelles or not? What do we say? Do we go with the general principle of suffix? Would be, last I checked, Techelles is a mitzvah min Torah. Do we go with the principle of suffix d'oraisa l'chumra or not? That's what we'll have to get into next time. In a case of, if we assume that Techelles is a suffix, do we go with the principle of suffix d'oraisa l'chumra, or we'll have to come up with some reason why we wouldn't say it? So continuing our discussion on the mitzvah of Techelles, the blue string. So let's assume that today the Techelles that we have, or what are the different Techelles that we have, different Radzina Hasidim, there's the Rav Herzog, there's from the Murex. Let's assume the Murex Techelles is treated in halacha like a suffix. That's a discussion. Let's assume for our purposes we're not sure. It might be, it might not be. Let's assume it's treated like a dad in halacha. So why don't we, or do we, apply the principle of suffix d'oraisa u'chumra? We have a general principle when it comes to sveikas. A dal by a biblical law was strict, a dal by a rabbinic law was lenient, and a double dal even by a biblical law was lenient. So Pashtus Techelles is a biblical mitzvah, and therefore if we have a dal whether we can fulfill the mitzvah d'oraisa b'shleimusa of tzitzis, so what's the harm? There's no harm, or we'll discuss if there's harm. Let's assume at this point no harm done. If I'm right, I get a mitzvah min Torah, and if I don't, I didn't do anything wrong. So what's the harm? Why don't I say suffix d'oraisa l'chumra? And even if you want to argue there might be some harm, so we have to discuss what the harm is. If the harm is going against the minhag or going against the lichatchila, so you have to weigh the risk-reward. If I have a chance of fulfilling a mitzvah min Torah, so then I might overweigh it. So let's discuss suffix d'oraisa l'chumra for a minute. So Pashtus, one would say suffix d'oraisa l'chumra, and therefore everyone should be wearing Techelles. So what is the opponents of Techelles? What is their argument? How do they counter back suffix d'oraisa l'chumra? So they quote over in the name of Rav Chaim that when do we say suffix d'oraisa l'chumra? Let's say I'm not sure if I benched or not. Let's say benching. Let's say I assume I ate a kedei savia. I'm benching min Torah. But I'm not sure if I benched again to now. When I bench over again, I know I fulfilled my mitzvah. So when do we say Savak Daraisa L'Chumra? That is only when, after I finished the mitzvah, I know that I'm definitely fulfilled it. But even after I do a doubt, but if I put on the Techelles on my tzitzis, I still don't know if I fulfilled my mitzvah, because maybe it's not the right Techelles, and therefore we don't say Savak Daraisa L'Chumra. That's what they say over in the name of Rav Chaim. But Rav Chaim seems to go against the Gemara, the Ran in Sukkah. The Ran in Sukkah talks about that, let's say it's Sukkot, and you have it done Dalad Minim Yelulav and Esrog, and it's Ben Hashmashas. Should I go ahead and do it? So clearly you will make a bracha, but could I go ahead and do it? So the Ran says yes. Why do we do it? Savak Daraisa L'Chumra, but at Ben Hashmashas I don't know if I fulfill my mitzvah. So according to Rav Chaim, the Ran seems to go against Rav Chaim. In fact, that's what Rav Shachter claims, that we don't follow Rav Chaim because it's against the Rishonim. The Ran writes that Savak Daraisa L'Chumra applies even b'Torah Safek. So Rav Sholem Melech disagrees with Rav Shachter and says, no, you don't understand Pshat in Rav Chaim. And I'll quote from one of the writings of Rav Miller on this issue of Techelles. He says, "But mitzvah shemechuyev b'Torah zvaday." Let's say a mitzvah I definitely have to fulfill. V'yesh l'fanav ofen l'kaimo misafik. And let's say I have a way that I could maybe fulfill. I'm definitely chayav in a mitzvah, and maybe I could fulfill it. And ba'achar she'kayim misafik, but even after I do it, I'm still b'chuyev b'davar. So I would have thought, then in that case you have to go l'chumrah. However, Miller says, "Reker chiyah me'Torah lasos davar sha'af achar siyaso nishar hachiyav lasos muto laveino doma klal." It's not compared to the Ran. The Ben Hashmashu sheish chiyav misafek v'yidei sasu poter atzpo men hachiyav lo nishar shum chiyav. In other words, Rav Miller wants to say that when it comes to the Ran and by Ben Hashmashos, you did everything you can do. And therefore, if I did everything I can do, so then Rav Chaim's Modeh, then you go ahead and you Rav Chaim is Modeh, you go ahead and you could shake the lulav. But in the case of Techelles, Rav Miller says like, you left me safek and you still have more to do. You have to go ahead and find the Techelles, so therefore you don't say Savak Daraisa L'Chumra. So obviously others, Rav Shachter argues and says it's not, we don't follow the Rav Chaim. We do say Savak Daraisa L'Chumra. In fact, that's what the Mishnah Berurah quotes in the Pri Megadah. In similar case, one has fill and that fell in water. You're not sure if it's kosher. Nevertheless, you do it. He doesn't go for that distinction. And even if we are going to go for the distinction, the proponent of the Murit's Techelles, they say we have done everything possible to perform the mitzvah, because there is no better alternative for Techelles that we know of. So we've done everything we can, and therefore we would say Savak Daraisa L'Chumra. We would say Savak Daraisa L'Chumra, and therefore one should wear the Techelles misafek. And Rav Miller throws in a more Kabbalistic reason at the end also. He says, Api Kabbalah, one should not wear Techelles made from indigo, from the Murits, because that's what the Gemara says, that from a Kabbalistic reason you shouldn't wear tzitzis made from the Kala Ilan. So then one, that's Al-Pi Kabbalah, it's a question what role Kabbalah plays in halacha anyway. And as well, they point out that there's a din l'chatchila that you can't wear the same color as the tzitzis. In other words, the din l'chatchila that if you're wearing white tzitzis, it should be a white bag. That's why Rav Shach is against a colored garment. So if you're wearing fake Techelles, you're not fulfilling this lechatchila. Of course, they'll argue, well, you should give up a lechatchila if you can fulfill a mitzvah in our Torah. So they point out, and one other argument that Rav Shlomo Miller gives is because, to me, I don't think it's the Techelles, it's not an issue, but if you think it's the Techelles, there's a machlokas from the Rishonim, how many threads of the Techelles should be? Should there be 1 out of 8, 2 out of 8, 4 out of 8? So let's assume it's 4 out of 8. You only put 2 out of 8. You're over about Tigra. If it's 2 out of 8 and you put 4, it's about Tosef. Since it's a machlokas Rishonim, we don't know how to machriya, so therefore we can't paskin. So Rav Shach would say, well, it's like any other issue. If the Shulchan Aruch doesn't paskin it, we have to go back to the Rishonim, work the Kol Yara and figure it out. So according to Rav Miller, if it is Techelles, it's a problem, and if it's not Techelles, it's not an issue. And Rav Shach, so according to Rav Miller, it is a problem. The problem is, if you wear Techelles, you could be over about Tigra, you're over Safek about Tigra or Safek about Tosef. And Rav Shach even has a bigger chiddush. He writes that based on the Beis Halevi, based on the Turi Even, that halacha is if you're supposed to put, it gets into what's the definition about Tigra. If you only put 3 minim on your lulav or 3 parishes in the tefillin, it's not fulfilled the mitzvah at all. But Tigra is that the Torah tells us to sprinkle on all 4 corners of the mizbeach, and let's say you only sprinkle 2. So he says that's about Tigra, the Turi Even writes. So too, if Shachta says here, if you could wear Techelles and you don't, so you're in violation about Tigra. Better not to wear tzitzis at all than to violate about Tigra, than to wear tzitzis without the Techelles. Those are some of the issues on whether the pros and cons of wearing Techelles or not, and the issue whether we apply the principle of Savek Daraisa L'chumra or not, and whether you'd violate Baal Tosef, Baal Tigra by wearing these tzitzis, or according to Rav Shach, how you violate Baal Tigra by not putting the Techelles in.